Morning, everybody. Thank you for coming. Been looking forward to this talk for a couple of years now. My name is Gabriel Rousseau. This is my colleague, Morin. And we're going to tell you about this really cool product that should be circulating in the room. So if you have a chance to take a look at it, please do. It's also in the map gallery. So let's get right into it. All right, so real brief, if you're not familiar with where the John Day is, it's one of the longest free-flowing rivers in the lower 48. It is the longest free-flowing river in the Columbia Basin. There was a previous guide that was published by the Bureau of Land Management in 2005. It was running low in stock in 2019. We noticed that, and well, we kind of needed to do a revision. So Monica approached me at the state office in 2021 and said, hey, we need some maps updating. And she happened to know that I make maps. So, we started update the old guide in 2021 and 2022. We had field season through up to, last year. During that time, we did a whole bunch of content writing, revision, and this last spring it was published just in time for boat season. So pretty stoked to tell you all about it. Monica, I think this is you.
Sure. Can you all hear me okay? So why would we even start this journey on a brand new voter guide or a map? Well, the easy question is we had an old one, it was out of date, and it needed to be updated, it was out of stock. So we needed to start this project. But what's so important about a river guide or a boater's guide is there's a high public demand for this product. It helps enhance people's experience while they're doing a multi-day river trip out on the John Day River. And this product right here has the opportunity to reach a very large audience for a very long time. So the last product was out for almost 20 years before we did a revision. So this product might have the same fate. It's unsure. I think nowadays we're able to update things a little quicker, but this product will be out there for a very long time. This product is also available on Avenza, which is very important for river users because as they're floating down the river, they know exactly where they are. And then out on the John Day River, there's a lot of private property. And so this helps to ensure that when folks are camping and out on the land, that they are on public lands. The John Day is also, again, a free-flowing river, so it is ever-changing. And where people are camping are also changing over time because some of the campsites are now overgrown, which affects how we manage the John Day River directly. So if you've heard of the Grand Canyon, you may have heard that it's hard to get a private boater trip on the Grand Canyon. And they've upgraded their permit system, and one can get out on the river a little more easily. But the John Day River is the same. So we have what we call capacity limits, and that helps us to protect and enhance the values which made that river wild and scenic to begin with. So we have capacity limits, and our limits are based on the number of campsites, right? So that has changed over time. It was inconsistent in the old guide, and it is now consistent in this new guide. So this new guide directly helps us manage the river. It also helps us manage the river through planning and education of folks who are going to travel down the river. Our goal is to enhance experiences on the river, and what better way to have a good time than to plan for the unexpected. So in this book, we have safety information, we have leave no trace information, and we also have river etiquette. Our goal is for when people visit the river, they enjoy their time, they come back home, and they're like, wow, I went to this amazing place. I really enjoy our public lands, and therefore we're helping to create stewards for the future for our public lands.
Awesome. So I did mention that we ran out of stock, and it took a few years to put this new one together. So we took the old one, and the best that we could do was basically say, hey, we know that there's a whole bunch of places that this guide is telling you can go camping at, and you can't camp there anymore because maybe nature has reclaimed that spot. So we basically just slapped like a great big disclaimer and, said there are known errors, and we put it up online, and if people wanted to download it, at least they had something. So this was kind of what got us by for the last couple of years until this new one was published. So this, during that same time, we also produced like an internal use guide. So I'll tell you a little bit about what we did in that process, but essentially, while that other version was up in the internet and people were printing it out, we were using this to basically ground truth the new version to make sure it was as reliable and trustworthy as it could possibly be. And this is where it ended up. We just published this thing, super proud of it, probably more than anything I've done in my career. It's a great product, and I really do believe that it can be trusted. So how did we get here? It's like 70 pages. It's 185 river miles at, you know, an inch to half a mile. A lot of detail. How on earth did we get here? Well, I can tell you about it. We had to remap the whole river. So we had all these spreadsheets going back before Monica's time there. You know, there could be a site there. There could be a site there. This site is overgrown. But how do I translate that to somebody who's in like a 15-foot or a 1,500-foot river canyon? How do I say, hey, like, I need you to go find this place? Well, so I created a bunch of PDFs, a bunch of maps, and, you know, said, go find this stuff. And we leveraged that in a couple of different mediums. We served all of those interim maps up as GeoPDFs, and we used Venza Maps Pro and an internal mobile data collection service called S1. And all of my transcribed notes from the previous slide, those were available in the GeoPDFs on tablets for our river rangers. So that's where we got our exact GPS positions for all of these sites that we were able to include in the guide. Now you're on the river and you got sun glare, maybe your device is low on battery, you're rowing a boat, so you're not filling in all the attributes that I need to be able to make this guide what it is. So what we have is hard copies, and I can't tell you how important these were. Paper maps are still important. So this is actually a copy of one of Monica's used guides. So what she did is she's out on the river and she's taken all these notes. This is where our qualitative information in the guide came from, was here. The next step was the integration of all of those field notes. So Monica, from all of these river trips that all of these rangers, herself, myself took, they basically got put into a master copy that she scanned and she was able to email to me. So all of those qualitative notes, basically with that scan copy, I just went through old-fashioned, you know, Adobe PDF, left myself comments saying, hey, I got that into the guide, that's been deleted, that sort of thing. We were doing stuff like really cool wildlife surveys. This is actually a site that I stayed at here, River Mile 66. We needed to make sure that there weren't any raptors at this site. So we actually stayed there overnight because if I'm putting a campsite down in this map, people are going to stay there. Well, if it's going to otherwise disturb the wildlife, we're not going to put that into the guide. We were actually able to keep this lovely site in this guide because there weren't any raptors nearby, or at least nesting at that time. So that was great news. So that's the sort of stuff that we did. Now, we took all of the GPS latitude and longitude from the mobile devices. We integrated that with the qualitative stuff into a great big spreadsheet. The output was a river matrix. And the river matrix basically just sits on the opposing page in the guide and tells you all about the sites that you might encounter, what the landing is like. Some sites are available when the river is at high flow. Some sites are available when the river is at low flow. Some sites have shade. Some sites can only take like 1 tent. Some sites can take 10. So like that's where all of that information lives on the opposing page. So as you're floating through the guide, we're telling you what you're going to see. Briefly, layout improvements, the old guide folded up vertically, and the way that it worked is you would have, like, let's say this is map 1 here, and this is map 2 here. So intuitively, if you're reading it on the river, you would think you float from map 1 into map 2, and it was actually the opposite. So the new layout, we're including all sorts of stuff like what your float section is, the section of river that you might be floating by. In this case, it's 30 Mile Creek. Adjacent features or adjacent features. So it's easy to get lost in the meander of these river canyons. So we're trying to include photos of places that you're floating by with captions saying exactly where that is. So you see this pretty prominent basalt cliff, you know that you're in that meander. Of course, here's your associated matrix telling you all about, you know, the sites that you're floating through. So that's kind of how it lays out now. I think it kind of works. And guide utility improvements, really briefly. The old guide didn't have any of this stuff. I got to chop NHD up. That was super fun, and calculate distances between one put in and one takeout. So you know how many river miles you might be doing between one place and another. Of course, river flow and seasons of use. The International Rapid Rating System. So you're coming across a rapid symbol in one of the maps. This first page is telling you exactly what you might be able to expect from that symbol. Then there's also the 30-mile access. This is kind of a really remote spot, so we slapped an additional map at the back of the guide to just kind of give people directions to access that location. Additionally, we also had an interdisciplinary team writing a bunch of content during the last 3 years on geology, paleontology, some obscure Bureau of Land Management stuff like a Lands and Water Conservation Fund or a wilderness study area. There's sections on Native American and cultural history. Of course, you know, the Oregon Trail. So there's all sorts of additional like interpretive information in this guide that allows the user to kind of follow along as they're floating through this really beautiful place. Wildlife, ecology, botany, like I said, paleontology. What the heck is a wilderness study area? Google it. They're pretty cool. They're important for us, and it's kind of obscure, but I also think it's helpful for the public to maybe know what those things are as well. So we describe those things as you're floating through that part of the landscape.
Okay, so we could have got through this project probably in a couple of years if it was just Gabe and I. Like, all right, we got this. But one of the most common phone calls I get as a recreation manager is, I've been boating the John Day River for 35 years. And so I'm like, wow, there's a lot of experience out there. Let's invite everybody to the table. This did not need to be a public process, but we sort of made it one. So what we did is we created a boater guides group. We had 3 representatives from commercial outfitters and guides and 3 representatives from private boaters. So they helped us edit the document. They gave us feedback. They also gave us ideas on where some of the better campsites are. And that was very, very integral part in our guide. We also had Bureau of Land Management partners that included the Confederated Tribes of Warm Springs, state organizations such as Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife and Oregon Parks and Recreation Department, and then also local representatives like the counties. Of course, we had our field staff who we've built relationships with. I mean, some of them have returned for years and years. And then our interdisciplinary team, which includes specialists, are most important in this project were archaeologists and wildlife. So we needed a village to make this product the best it could be. And I feel like we took the extra time so that it could be.
Thank you. So this is sort of the crux of what I have to say here. So that group, the River Rangers, they're all really skilled oarsmen, right? So like I'm pretty good at pushing a mouse. That's kind of my job. But being out on a canyon and on a river, and you know the way that those skilled oarsmen they just have a different skill set than I do, and they all had some feedback for me. And I was like, you know, they're like, you know, the guide could do this. It could do that. It could be better. It could be more functional. And I'm like, gosh, I just really don't want to have to go back and rebuild this whole darn thing. And last summer, I had in 23, I had a 6-day float, you know, ironing out the final details on this river. And, you know, I got off the river, you know, like waking up with the sun, going to sleep, listening to the bullfrogs, like 6 days out there. That really was like, yeah, these skilled oarsmen, they know what they're talking about, and I should probably listen to them. And I really had to take a hard look at the guide. Their experience matters, and I really needed to embrace their criticism and really take a hard look at this guide, not just at the cartography, but at the overall functionality of the thing. And really had to think, can I do a better job depicting this amazing place? And ask myself, can this be better? And ultimately, it could be. So after that float, I went back to it. The internal guide is there on the left. That's what we had been using for the last 3 years. The published guide is right there on the right. Now, the internal guide was using 100-foot contours. I thought that was enough. Now, these folks like to go for hikes. They like to see topography, drainages, that sort of thing. So I dropped the 100-foot contours in lieu of 40-foot contours with 200-foot index. Really helps the terrain really sort of shine. Also, these are really steep cliffs in a very dry place. So a lot of these intermittent streams from NHD, that's not really there. So I just got rid of a bunch of the stream network just to kind of clean up the maps. Also, additionally, and this was the big part, was map overlap between the maps. So before I was trying to be efficient, just a little bit of overlap between each river map, and what they wanted was more overlap showing major locations between the maps. So here's an example. In map 17, it flows into map 18. On both maps, you've got 2 river mileages plus 2 campsites. So you know exactly when you leave one map and you flip the page to the next, you know exactly where you are. So you have those bearings. And before it didn't have that. And ultimately, what that meant is a complete revision from 25 river maps up to 26 river maps. So that's, it was a lift, but I definitely think it made for a better, more functional, usable guide. That'll have a better life of service. So.
All right, so in conclusion about this project, it's not just a guidebook. It's not just a map. What you all do is not just make maps. We help enhance experiences. And then in this project specifically, we help forge relationships with our partners, which could help us in a project down the road because we've already paved the way to problem solving. And we've also strengthened pride and ownerships in our public lands. So within our team ourselves, this product might be out there for 15, 20 years, and our river rangers can look at the back of the book and say, hey, my name is here, and I did this work, and they can be proud of it, and they should be proud of it. And what we want to do is plan for experiences, plan for memories. So our intent with this book is that someone will plan a trip. We'll have thousands of trips planned just using this book. We want each book to be used so many times that the pages stick together and that you can no longer read the words on the pages. And our hope is that someday someone will pull it off their bookshelf, dust it off 30, 40 years from now, and remember who they were with on the river, what they were doing, the places that they were in, and what they experienced out on our public lands. And in my job, as a river manager, as a recreation manager, our job, again, is to enhance experiences, and I'm not a cartographer at all. I don't know anything about maps except I trust them. I don't know where they're from, but I assume that they're right, and they tell a story, and through what I consider a form of art. And so what this book does is it tells the story of the John Day River, and it hopefully helps people make their own story. So we can't be more grateful in the recreation department to have this product to help other people have a good time out there on their public lands.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you, Monica. So there's our contact information, and I'm not sure if we have any time left, but
One brief question.
oh gosh, yes.
Well, yes, I mean, I've got a really basic.
Okay.
You have one?
I was going to ask, did you add any campsites as part of the field research, or?
We did, and they went through clearance through Archaea and Wildlife and through the interdisciplinary team. Yep, so the old campsites were grandfathered in, then the new ones had to go through clearances.
Thank you, everybody.
That's right.
Yeah.